Formula One is boring. Lewis Hamilton wins all the time. It's a predictable sport. Not so much. Welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. Today we'll be reviewing the Italian Grand Prix. We are powered by the F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews and opinions on all things Formula One. Hosting today will be me, George Howson, and joining me today are F1 expert Alex Boo.
Sorry, hello.
Sports journalist Dev Tyagi.
Hello. Hi.
And F1 YouTuber Brit O'Connor.
Hi.
So, fair to say it was an incredible race today at Italy. I didn't think we'd top Austria, to be honest with you, but I think we've managed it today, Alex. The first French winner in 24 years. No, it's not Romain Grosjean. It's Pierre Gasly. I mean, what more can you say? What an incredible race.
It was. I mean, if you'd have told me before the race started that was going to happen, I would have thought that you'd taken something, to be honest. At Monza as well, at a circuit that's so fast, it's a circuit that you can overtake on. It doesn't always produce. It's a great circuit, but it doesn't always produce the most unpredictable of races. We were all set for a Mercedes walkover today, and that didn't happen. It was incredible. What happened today was fantastic, and Pierre Gasly, fantastic after what he's been through from last year. He ended up back at Toro Rosso, drove brilliantly last year, and this season he's been absolutely fantastic. Today, he firmly set his place up maybe for a potential return to Red Bull. And the first French driver to win a race was 24 years. That's incredibly hard to believe. And finally, that duck has been broken.
Yeah, and fully deserved. I mean, like you said, Pierre Gasly's been through so much, getting demoted to Toro Rosso, losing his good friend Antoine Hubert, having his house burgled this year. He's been through it all, and he's performed unbelievably well. He's performed excellently. Fully deserved win for him. First win for the AlphaTauri Toro Rosso outfit since 2008 with Seb Vettel. And the thing is, Dev, it was deserved. I mean, yes, he got a bit lucky, but he fully took his chance. He fended off Carlos Sainz expertly in not as fast of a car as the McLaren. I mean, it's fully deserved for his performances this season. He's potentially been the best driver this year, really.
Absolutely. You know, in some ways, this remarkable performance by Gasly is, at least to me as a Formula One fan, it's kind of a tight slap on Horner's face because, I was watching one of the seasons of Drive to Survive, and one of the nastiest remarks that the Red Bull team had to offer on Gasly towards one of the end stages of their episode featured on Red Bull was that we did have a talented driver teaming up alongside Max, but he was just not as good. So while surely he doesn't have the records to compete with Max downright, but this kind of a performance is a direct slap on the face of the critics who actually doubted his capability. And let's not forget the fact that it's the team which gave him the drive in Formula One, his first podium, and now his incredible, remarkable, and rather unprecedented race victory. So my heart goes out to Pierre Gasly because anyone who said prior to the start of the race that they could conceive what the end final three positions would be are surely lunatics. You know, they didn't really know what's going to happen, and he really capitalized. And I must also credit Sainz because in the last two laps, he really got that gap down to the race leader. He was roaring for the track position, but Gasly held on to it. And in some ways, the 80-01 is like absolutely terrific 0-1 for Gasly in the end. So really happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in a way it's what the sport potentially needed, Brit, because a lot of people were saying the things that I mentioned at the start of this episode, that it's boring, it's predictable. We all thought it was going to be Bottas, Hamilton and Verstappen on the podium today, and we ended up with a racing point in McLaren and AlphaTauri. It's exactly what the sports needed. And we couldn't be happier for Gasly. He fully deserves it.
Oh, 100%. He thoroughly deserves it. For me, he has been the driver of the season. And I just think him getting that win today just shows how good he is. And yeah, I thought the Mercedes would be very dominant, but I kind of sensed the Red Bull wouldn't be up there. So I was hoping for a different 1, 2, 3. But yeah, we got it and it was really exciting. Such a great race. It was what the sport needed because I think everyone was starting to get bored. Even Lewis last week was saying he would be bored if he watched it. So I think this is definitely what we needed and it was great.
Yeah, it was absolutely edgy of seat stuff. I was literally on the edge of my seat watching, just thinking what's going to happen, because you didn't know what was going to happen.
Literally, at one point, I was so confused what was going on because the whole grid was just back to front, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
It was like a reverse grid Formula 2 race,
It was,
wasn't it?
After the restart as well, it was like a Formula 2 sprint race as well, which was great.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Charles Leclerc's horrible accident. Thankfully, he's okay, but that really did shake things up massively. And another driver that benefited from it was Carlos Sainz, Alex. I mean, second place from starting third. Normally, that would be an unbelievable weekend. He will no doubt be a little disappointed that he didn't win it in the end. It's still a great weekend for McLaren, a great weekend for him. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, he's admitted that he has been struggling this season at times, but a second place massively boosted him up with the standings.
It was just some luck, because obviously in Spa he had a terrible day, didn't he? He didn't even start. Thankfully, it's all gone well for him this weekend. Had a fantastic qualifying session yesterday, and even without the drama today, I think he would have still finished on the podium regardless, because he was running second to Lewis Hamilton. Potentially, he might have been beaten. He could have ended up fourth, but still, you can't really say that was due to luck. They genuinely had the pace this weekend, and Carlos Sainz is a very talented driver. McLaren are a team that is on the up, and what a fantastic weekend for them. It's boosted them in the Constructors' Championship, and like you mentioned, it promoted Sainz as well, and the Sainz are good for the season ahead for McLaren after that today.
Yeah, absolutely. McLaren still third in the championship. They were before going into this, but now they got a big lead over Racing Point, 17-point lead over Racing Point. But it was a good weekend for Racing Point as well, Dev. They picked up their first podium of the season. Lance Stroll, now up to fourth in the drivers' standings, believe it or not, after finishing third today. But he's another guy who might be a bit disappointed. On the restart, after the red flag, he got horrible wheel spin. That robbed him of the chance of winning the race.
Yeah, it was at the end of the day a very strong weekend for Stroll, and let's not forget he's been carrying a lot of good speed in that RP20 this year, and he's been very consistent, especially starting the 2 rounds at Silverstone. So it was, I think, a matter of time where for him to really rise up to the front of the grid, and that's what happened today. And he was also, let's not forget, the quicker of the 2 cars, with Perez scrapping away for points towards the top, the rear end of the top 10. And great race for Stroll. He should be happy with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Stroll's a guy who gets a lot of criticism, but this year he is doing a lot better. Let's not forget how young he is. I think he's only 22 years old. His second podium in Formula One, his first for Racing Point as well. Brilliant for him. Brilliant day for him. Another great day for someone as well, Brit, was Lando Norris making a McLaren 2-4. It was running up in third in the early stages. The safety car and the red flag didn't really help him that much, but still, brilliant drive. Held off Valtteri Bottas expertly as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all pretty shocked at, he held off Bottas in that Mercedes. Great drive from Lando. I really thought McLaren could get a 2-3 on the podium, which I think we would have all loved to see. They've just been driving so well this weekend, which is great. And yeah, he's doing well. He keeps finishing, scoring great points recently, and it's good to see. It's good for the future for McLaren as well.
Absolutely, yeah. McLaren doing amazingly well this season. With perhaps not the best car, but their drivers are getting absolutely the most out of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, the team with by far the best car this year so far, Alex, has been Mercedes. But the leading Mercedes today, Valtteri Bottas in fifth. He has gained points back on Lewis Hamilton, but today was a humongous opportunity that he wasted off the line, frankly.
Yeah, it was a tough day at the office for Bottas. It was lost from the start. I mean, he got that bad start. He was caught off guard by that fantastic manoeuvre from Lando Norris going to the second chicane, and it took him a while to recover because he went wide at Lesmo, dropped him further back, and then because he was in the pack, he had them overheating issues and he couldn't run at full pelt, and it seemed to clearly affected him a lot. He didn't really. It seemed like they were Mercedes and his engineer and him were a bit lost at how to manage it. And then the problem happened with Hamilton in the pit lane with the red light. And that's the opportunity what Bottas needed to fully take advantage of. And he didn't quite do it. He didn't really make any progress from there on in, whereas Hamilton had his he lost 30 seconds with the stop go and gained 22 seconds. So Mercedes are going to, Bottas' side of the Mercedes garage are going to come back from that thinking, well, this was our golden opportunity and it didn't pay off. And it's another example of how Bottas doesn't quite live up to the level that Lewis Hamilton shows. And it's sad, it's not nice to say, but it's the truth, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Bottas up to second in the championship now, ahead of Max Verstappen, but that'll be absolutely no consolation to him whatsoever. A massive missed opportunity, and this is the only, this was the kind of race he would have been hoping for to try and catch up. He got it, and he's blown it, frankly. Like we were saying before the show started, people are calling him Botticello after Rubens Barrichello. He's a great number 2, but he just can't do it. He just can't do it by himself. Clearly, wasn't able to overtake Lando Norris in a far more inferior McLaren. So there you go. 6th place today there was Daniel Ricciardo, and Renault perhaps hoping for more this weekend, but they did get solid points, at least with him 6th and Ocon in 8th. Renault looking decent in the low drag setup, but they couldn't really get past the racing points or the McLarens that cost them in the end.
I think in front of such a smashing top 3 performances today, a bit of an unsung drive from a Renault perspective was definitely Ricciardo's, for the simple reason that here is a driver who was really experiencing a lot of car difficulties on the qualifying and also during the first free practice. And then to finish, comfortably inside top 10 is great. The only drawback, though, is that on the driver's standings, he's now 10th because he's tied with Sainz, who's just lapped him, and he's right now on 9th. But where his personal form on Monza stands, and I think it's been on the plus side ever since the 2018 non-finish happened, because last year also he was finishing, he was 5th or 4th, if I'm not mistaken, and he was clearly the faster of the 2 Renaults out there, and I didn't really seem once out of, in a struggling position, and he drove a consistent race to finish inside top 10. So job well done for Ricciardo. He actually finished 1 position up from where he started, so not too bad for the Honey Badger.
No, not bad at all. And Renault are now ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. They're up to 5th. Got a chance of catching Racing Point potentially. It's all to play for in the midfield. It's still pretty tight in there. Not on the level it was before this race, but it's still pretty nip and tuck in there. Now, 7th place, Brit, was Lewis Hamilton. And normally that would be disastrous for him, but I think with everything that happened to him, he will happily take that. He got the fastest lap point as well, and managed to do what Bottas couldn't do. He overtook a lot of drivers to get up into the points.
Yeah, I watched the after-race interviews, and I thought, to be honest, Lewis would be very annoyed, but he was actually pretty happy with that result. And to be honest, I think he should be, because at one point he was running dead last and had a lot of work to do to catch up to the rest of the pack. And I think today we have just seen the difference of how great Hamilton is compared to Bottas. Bottas could we all thought the Mercedes couldn't get through with the traffic, but Hamilton showed that it could. And I think that's just the difference in drivers. But yeah, Lewis is always brilliant coming through the field, and it was actually great to see that, because he usually just rides off into the sunset. So it was actually good to see him actually working for once.
Yeah, Hamilton always has it easy, can't overtake, this and that, and all those other crap rumours that people think of all been put to bed. His car wasn't set up to overtake, frankly, really struggled behind Alexander Albon, but it did the job. He got up to 7th, did a fantastic job to do that, really. But yeah, something we haven't really gone into much was why he was so far down the field, Alex. I mean, he got a 10-second stop-go penalty, as did Antonio Giovinazzi, for going into the pit lane when it was closed after Magnussen had his retirement. And to be honest with you, the team don't really have a leg to stand on, because they would have got some sort of message. But I do feel sorry for Hamilton himself, because there isn't a light on the pit lane entry. There is on the outside of Parabolica, but there isn't actually one in the pit lane itself. So I can understand why he got confused.
Yeah, obviously his eyesight wouldn't have been on the outside of Parabolica going through the corner. It would have been, on the racing line. And there is an argument that there should have been a light on the pit lane. Not that it would have made any difference, because if it had been, he would have had to stop and go back onto the circuit, which would have been potentially dangerous. So that's another argument. But there was a lot of tension at the time, because Giovinazzi got his penalty first, and it seemed a long time before the FIA decided to give Hamilton the penalty. And you can imagine what would have been talking about if he hadn't received the same one. But it was a clear case of, we've had a great race today, but it wasn't due to reliability. Someone in the Mercedes team, or multiple people, anyone who's making the decision, they've messed up today. And I wouldn't like to be in that debrief room this afternoon. I wonder what if the Drive to Survive are filming in that one. I'd really like to see that episode. I don't think they are, but it would have been great. So yeah, it's a day to forget for them, really.
It is a very poor day for Mercedes, but they've done so well so far this season. They're kind of due an off day, but obviously they don't have off days. They don't tolerate that at their camp. That's why they're so successful. I don't know who Drive to Survive was being filmed. It was filming this week. And they were filming Ferrari last week, which will be an entertaining one. I don't know who they were filming this week. If it was Ferrari again, it will be another entertaining one. Maybe just really sad, let's be honest.
The last time it was Mercedes, it was Hockenheim last year, and that was a disaster for them as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they banned them. Just like, no, you can't come back. Oh, yeah. So, like I mentioned, Esteban Ocon, decent day today, and Renault, he was 8th. Got his car over the line decently well. Daniel Kvyat, Dev, was 9th place in the AlphaTauri. His teammate obviously winning, but Kvyat again, a decent drive, did all he could, brought the car home. But I do get the feeling more and more that this will be his last year in F1, or at least for AlphaTauri.
It could be, George, but to me, the most interesting observation today is that, as a matter of fact, his P9 at Monza today happens to be his best performance so far in 2020 season. Remember, he had two 10th-place finishes. One of them was at the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. Then the one was at the second round at Spielberg, if I'm not wrong. Then starting Spain, Belgium, and now as he arrived at Italy, he's been improving. So at Spain, he was P12. Then Belgium, he improved a place up further, 11th, and now 10th. So 2 valuable points, but we don't know what's going to happen at the remainder of the season. He's clearly playing the number 2 role at AlphaTauri, nowhere near as quick or as consistent as Gasly. But nonetheless, a very decent run today, I would say.
Yeah, did a decent job. I always rate Kvyat. I think he's very solid and deserves his place in F1. But I get the feeling that Red Bull are going to want to put Tsunoda or someone like that, or Ruvula in the car, someone like that, just in place. And they always want to promote the young guys. But we'll see what happens. Now, a guy that I really expected to do well this weekend was Sergio Perez. He ended up in 10th. He just got caught in traffic, got unlucky with the pit stops. A bit of a day to forget for him, but at least he has something to show for it. At least he got a point for his trouble.
Yeah, I felt really bad for him because he was running at the top at the beginning of the race. I think he was in P4, catching Lando, actually. It was quite close between them. And then obviously the safety car came. And yeah, it just didn't work out well. I think one of the Renaults actually got him in the pit lane or something. But yeah, it just kind of got a bit messy there. And I can imagine he's a bit annoyed that his teammate has got the podium and not him, because I feel like he probably felt he deserved that one a little bit more than Lance. But yeah, bit of a bad day at the office for him as well.
Yeah, Sergio Perez is another guy that I feel will be out of his current seat next year through no fault of his own, really. That's just the way it goes, I'm afraid. It's Formula One's a very cruel mistress. Hopefully he'll stick around, though. Hopefully he'll get a hash drive or something like that. But he absolutely deserves to be in that seat, in my opinion, next year. Now, 11th place, Alex. It's second 11th place for Williams. Nicholas Latifi just missing out on the points again. I do feel for the guy, but he, fair play to him. He beat Russell today. He did a very good drive to kind of steer clear of all the trouble, but just not quite enough in the end in that Williams to get the first point of the season for them.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a bit too much to ask, really. It would have been a terrific fairy tale. It was the final race for the Williams family. And what a great send-off it would have been for them to have a points finish. They needed someone in the top 10 to drop out towards the end. Latifi, he was very, very lucky that he pitted just before the safety car came out. That promoted him quite high up the field. But yeah, it's the deficiency of that car. It's okay in qualifying, but it clearly, the race pace isn't quite there, and there's a lot of guys on the grid who are a lot quicker. And so as soon as the race went green, he quickly fell back. But Williams got both cars to the finish again, and a good personal result for Nicholas Latifi, beating George Russell, as you mentioned. That's no mean feat. We all know what a talent George Russell is. So it's all round not a bad day for Williams, but it's still not quite there.
No, there's not enough pace in that car, but there is a new beginning on the horizon for them. New leadership, and we'll get more insight into the preview for Tuscany after this. Laurent Grosjean, not too much to say about him, really. Get a decent result to get that Haas home in 12th. Not quite enough points in the end. Did all he could, but again, a bit like Latifi, just not enough pace in the car. Now, Dev, unfortunately, I have to come to you for this one. Kimi Räikkönen, 13th, but it could have been so much more. I feel so sorry for the guy. What was it? Was he running second at this stage after the restart? And his car just plummeted down the grid. It was awful to watch.
Yeah, I mean, car didn't have any traction. There was no grip. And briefly, after he held on to that podium's place, he was just not able to defend his position. And it was really heartbreaking for any fan who's, watched Kimi in better days, in much more stronger cars, to see him struggling the way he was, because first he is passed by Stroll and then Sainz and then Norris and then Bottas and then one after the other. And then I really think that at the latter half of the race, the car pace really deteriorated for Kimi, and no wonder he fell out of flavor, comfortably out of top 10, and then that's all he could do. And I'm really sure he must have had something interesting to offer on what really happened on his car, but not really a great race once again today. So he's going to have to fight again for those points.
Still no points for Kimi Räikkönen this season, but it's not his fault. The Alfa Romeo, like you said, Dev, no traction, no power from the Ferrari engine.
He was clearly, outside the parabolic. I beg your pardon. He went into a bit of an oversteer, and then that's where you could really see him sliding all the way through. And then on the main straights, that car was really, it really had underwhelming race pace, and then it just couldn't really hold on. And from there on, it was just a downslide further end of the grid, and that's all we could see today.
Should they put him on different tyres, perhaps? Was he struggling because of him being on the softs? Because I thought it was a bit of a strange decision, to be honest.
Yeah.
Should have probably put him. I think he started on hards or mediums, right? I can't remember now.
I think they left him out on the hard tyres for the rest of the grid, because he went in early. So first Leclerc tried to undercut the Alfa Romeo, and then Alfa Romeo responded by pitting Raikkonen immediately, which was just after 1.5 laps of Leclerc pitting. And from that point on, he was just left on a longer stint towards the end of the race, but didn't really prove out to be great for his tyres.
Well, hopefully Raikkonen and Alfa Romeo get some more points for the rest of the season. I've got a feeling he'll do well around Imola. He's the only guy on the current grid to drive around there, so hopefully he'll do well there. George Russell, again, decent job in the Williams to get 14. That's all he could do, really. He's just points to be beaten by Latifi, but that's how it goes sometimes. He can't win every week against his teammate. In 15th place, Brit, a guy who had an absolute day to forget, Alexander Albon. He had damage, I believe, from Pierre Gasly. That really slowed him down. But 15th place in that Red Bull, last but all but Giovinazzi, who had a big penalty, the same thing that Hamilton did. He's got to be very nervous. He looked nervous in his driver interview after the race. Yeah.
I just feel like I'm repeating myself when it comes to Alex every weekend. Like, he's just... something's not working. I know he had damage today, but it's just still not happening for him. I just think even the whole weekend, he hasn't looked fast, or like in practice, the Red Bull obviously wasn't looking that great, but Max was still up there, but Alex just couldn't once again. And yeah, like you said, I think he'll be definitely looking over his shoulder. Obviously, a lot of people are now thinking Gasly might return to Red Bull. Personally, I don't want to see that. I don't think Gasly should go back. But yeah, it's not great. And I just don't know what else he can do. It's just something's not working for him, which is a great shame.
No, it is not working for him, is it? But it's working for Gasly in the Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
So I really don't. Sorry, AlphaTauri. I really don't want to see him go out of there. I want to see him stay in that car. He just works well. He literally won the race today in that car. You can't get any better than that. So
yeah, I think Red Bull will be very gutted that they got rid of Gasly after that performance today, because it was quite something. But yeah,
we'll chat more about Gasly in the preview show for Tuscany. It's interesting what could potentially be happening with him. We'll see. Antonio Giovinazzi, if he didn't pit at the wrong time, then he could have done a lot better today. He got 16th in the end. He was running up with Raikkonen, but I do fear he would have suffered the same fate as Raikkonen anyway. He would have slipped back down probably anyway. He was the last finished in 16th. Max Verstappen, Alex, it wasn't a very good... It was a terrible day for Red Bull in general, but they didn't have too much pace anyway before then. Qualified in fifth and didn't seem very fast at all during the race, probably because of his power unit, and ended up retiring because of it.
He'll definitely be the most annoyed man in Monza this evening. Max Verstappen. I mean, if he hadn't have retired, and then what happened to Lewis Hamilton, he could have been the main beneficiary of that. And sadly, it wasn't to be. And data forgets for Red Bull. They weren't particularly on it all weekend, really, were they? Not compared to most of their recent performances. So it's just they're going to go away scratching their heads, I think, and they'll hope that write this one off and go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to be moving on from this. They traditionally don't really do well around ones. It doesn't suit the car. They don't usually go on low drag tracks, but there you go. Disappointing day for them.
Yeah, their top speeds were nowhere this weekend. It showed how good their car is aerodynamically, but well, I know AlphaTauri took the race win today, but yeah, it seems that the Honda power unit isn't necessarily the quickest, but both the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull car design enable it to work really well.
Different philosophies at the end of the day, and we all know that Newi's all about downforce, which is you don't need that around Monza. You need it for 2 corners. That's it. Well, Parabolica a little bit too, but yeah. So power unit failure for Verstappen, power unit failure as well for Kevin Magnussen. He ended up going out of the race because of that, starting the whole chaos, which changed the order up so much. And Dev, a double DNF for Ferrari. Vettel retiring after 6 laps with brake failure. Probably just trying to shave any kind of weight off the car, and obviously they ran out of brakes with him. And Charles Leclerc, he looked like he had big potential to get a good result, maybe even a podium today, but the car's just not very stable. He lost the rear end through Parabolica and had a horrible crash.
Yesterday when he finished his qualifying run and when he was making his way into the pits, there was a bit of a desperation and a sense of the inevitable in Leclerc's voice when he said that I did what I could, I did the best, but 13th is all we could get. So I'm sure that having that in at the back of his mind, he would have been really curious and keen to actually outdrive himself, and that's what he was doing, because he was actually competing very well against the 2 Alfa Romeos, and he was actually up there. He was running in 7-6 when that crash happened, but then it was just one of those unreliable Ferrari engine days, and then that kind of kicked itself in, and a double DNF for the home team. The only thing they could do is to just clap in admiration for the other Italian team, which was able to do something brilliant, which they weren't able to. But we've had this sort of a narrative, as the writing on the wall, that Ferrari was supposed to stoop to their lowest. But I can't, as a fan, imagine that this would transpire, because let's just rewind the clocks back to 12 months back in the past, when on the same track, the Temple of Speed, what a dominant win did Leclerc manage, and that was really the birthing of the new man in charge at the Scuderia. And now here we are. I mean, I can just, as a big Ferrari fan, hope that things are better ahead of them. That 2021 does bring about that awesome turnaround, which we at the back of our minds know may not actually happen the way we want it to. But, that team really deserves to get back to the days of the yore, as they call it. But sad day today, really.
Sorry, Britt, were you going to say something there?
Oh, no. I was just laughing.
Yeah, it is insane how it's been 12 months since Leclerc was winning back-to-back races, and then we had Vettel winning in Singapore 2 weeks after. It's, long way since then. They got a long way still to go back. Ferrari, Leclerc doing everything he could to...
But Leclerc, I believe, will continue to fight for good positions. That even a top 5 is not out of that impractical or out of his reach. He showed us what he had right at the start of this season. So I think he's going to keep... he's young, so he knows that he has, those reflexes, he has that consistency. And he's been consistently outperforming his much more experienced teammate, who actually has nothing going for him, which is very sad too. But I think we can have some great fights from Leclerc ahead of us.
Absolutely, yeah. Leclerc's got a very bright future ahead of him. Absolutely, especially you never know. He could even win a championship for Ferrari one day, but that is a good few seasons off at least, I'm afraid. And in a way, it's even harder for Ferrari because they got Mugello coming up next. Their 1000th race, so no pressure, guys. But yeah, let's go for our drivers of the day today. Unsurprising, I think this is going to be a full house, to be honest with you, but unsurprisingly, I'm going to go for Pierre Gasly. Just the pace that he did today, from 10th to 1st in an AlphaTauri, in any circumstances, is unbelievable. Didn't put a foot wrong all day. Britt, who are you going for?
Of course, Pierre Gasly, but I'll also go for Carlos Sainz because he's had a great weekend. He's been quick all weekend, and from what happened last weekend, not even starting the race, to come back and get a podium is just amazing. And he was just out there flying. So hats off to him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Carlos Sainz as well is a very close second, literally, in the race. The top two were absolute standouts. They really were. Alex, who's your pick for driver of the day?
Yeah, I'm going to parrot Brit here. It's got to be Gasly. Sainz a close second though. He drove a fantastic race, but a terrific performance from Gasly and thoroughly deserved that first win. So pleased for him. It's fantastic result.
Yeah, a very popular winner, Pierre Gasly, I'm sure. I think he did win driver of the day properly as well in the poll on F1.com. Dev, who was your pick for driver of the day?
Well, in terms of the overall consistency, given qualifying, free practice, the race, the fastest lap, I would go for Lewis, but purely to make myself heard differently from what other two eminent panelists are saying. Hamilton proves once again that he doesn't like to call it quits, not until it's over. Let's not forget the fact that he was relegated further to the back end of the field after he served his 10-second time penalty. And that would have left him gutted. But unlike Bottas, who failed to pass Norris, and I really don't know how could he do that. Here was Hamilton. Okay, he took 2 more extra laps to perhaps pass which I think Albon or someone.
Yeah,
but he still hung in there. He fought back from 17th, came back to 7th, set the fastest lap, and let's admit it. Had the fiasco or entering the pits at the wrong time would not have happened, this was his race to win any which ways. So we still have the great man too shy away from matching the mighty Michael Schumacher, which I think is just in a matter of another couple of race weekends. So for me, Hamilton for his consistency. But again, amazing races by Sainz and Gasly, the race winner, of course.
Did anybody notice as well after Hamilton got his pole that on the banner they put 90th race win instead of the pole?
Yeah.
They jinxed him. I know it's kind of thought, wait a minute, he's not won the race.
Yeah.
So there you go.
What we've not mentioned from Gasly though today is the fact that as well he'd never been in that position before where he's led a Grand Prix and he had Sainz closing down him in the closing lap, and he didn't make a mistake. He kept going and he won the race. Last year Leclerc in the Ferrari ran wide at the chicane twice. So the pressure. He never succumbed to the pressure. He carried on, and it was a fantastic drive for him. But I do agree with Dev. I suppose if the pit lane fiasco hadn't happened, it would have been a runaway win for Hamilton. So we can't really take away from that. But it was a thoroughly outstanding drive from Gasly and from Sainz as well.
And one thing more, I'm not the biggest Lewis Hamilton fan you'd run into, but what I always admire about this guy is that he's so humble and down to earth. He was the first to congratulate Gasly when he came out of the car, So that shows his grace, that he's always taking into account great performances by other drivers who do not happen to drive a Mercedes. And he's always full of great words. So it was nice, he congratulated Sainz, ran away to congratulate and meet Gasly. So that's the true mark of a champion,
Yeah.
The greats glitter in gloom, they say, but there's no gloom on Hamilton's side ever.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And yeah, like you said, they're very humble at Hamilton as well. Leclerc went over and congratulated. Everybody was happy for him, except for perhaps Carlos Sainz maybe. But yeah, everybody was happy for him. Hell of a day.
He literally got a round of applause when he went into the media pen as well. So that was great as well.
Yeah. We all love no offense to Gaz, we all love an underdog winner, a surprise.
Yeah.
We don't. It's amazing. We don't get it that often in Formula One, not on this kind of scale.
No.
But yeah, so yeah, that is our review of the Italian Grand Prix. Stick with us to go into a preview for the Tuscan Grand Prix, which will be held next week. You can catch this show on F1 Chronicles website, of course, and as well as that, we've got YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Omni Studio, and Podcast account. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk and all of those. Got an official store for merchandise, including the mugs that I've shown off before and T-shirts. Just go to the F1 Chronicles website for those. We've got a big back catalogue of shows as well, over 50 episodes now, which include an interview with Mario Sola and documentary-style pieces on events like Tigergate and Senna. And yes, we'll be back on Wednesday to preview the Tuscan Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.